You did everything right. You went to the doctor. You maybe even went to sick call while on active duty. You got diagnosed. You got a stack of medical evidence. You submitted your claim. The VA still denied it. How? Why? What did I do wrong? You just need to understand that medical records aren't the same thing as a nexus. You need to have both to win the claim at the VA. And most vets don't know that until after the first denial. So what medical records actually do is just establish you have the condition. And what we're really looking for when you're filing claims at the VBA is chronic conditions. If your medical records show that diagnosis, show the treatment history, you've established you've got the condition and it's chronic. And these medical records are essential. You can't win the claim without them. But their sole purpose is just to establish element number 1 of a 3-element requirement. Your medical records aren't designed to answer the question the VA wants answered. How is this condition connected to your service? They just provide that you have the condition. That's it. So like when your record says the veteran has chronic low back pain, right? That's what it says. The VA will concede you've got the diagnosis, but that in no way proves it was because you served in the Army. So that's where you need a nexus. So what a nexus actually is a legal document written by a medical professional using the VBA's own language that illustrates how the condition you suffer from is a direct relation or caused by or aggravated by your military service. That's what a nexus does, connects these two things. So a qualified provider will say, at least as likely as not, your condition is service connected or because of your service or aggravated. Then it'll go on to talk about the medical reasoning that backs up that opinion. This is an opinion. So the nexus actually answers how and why. Your medical records just answer what. So make this distinction. Your medical records are a backwards looking document. It documents what happened. A nexus letter is an opinion looking forward. What's going to happen, how the veteran's going to deal with this condition the rest of his life, how it's going to impact his social and economic ability. That's what the nexus letter helps with. It's forward looking, not backward looking. And you need both. You got to have both to win the claim at the VA. But unless you're walking in the VA's world all day or some other corner niche use case of why you would understand what a nexus is, it's understandable if you're confused. The VA doesn't lay this out. They use different languages to mean, or different words to mean the same thing. When a nexus is a service connection, they'll tell you not service connected, but what they're actually saying is you need a nexus, right? So it's very confusing. So if you were to go to a civilian doctor and says, hey, I was a paratrooper, I did more than 200 jumps, I've got bad knees, right? A doctor will use common sense and say, oh, those 200 jumps led to your bad knees. Common sense. The VA does not. They're governed by the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. That's the source of all truth at the VA. So you could look up your conditions in the CFR. Go to ecfr.gov, right? You can look up your conditions. Now, I'll tell you, it's a bureaucratic document. It's kind of tough to read through, but it's all in there, right? And the VA adjudicator who's deciding your claim is not a doctor. And they are not going to use common sense to adjudicate your claim. They're going to use the CFR. And they are processing a legal document. So they've got to have guidelines. So oftentimes our medical records don't have a connection explicitly stated. You've got to have an opinion outside of your medical records that explicitly states that so that the adjudicator can CYA. So if the connection isn't explicitly stated on paper, it doesn't exist. So take my own case as an example. I won the tinnitus claim. Didn't have any medical evidence for that. There is no medical evidence for tinnitus. Won that. Headaches. Still suffer from headaches to this day. I've had them since my Air Force time, right? But I needed the medical evidence to prove that claim. It wasn't enough that I could produce a migraine buddy log or something like that. I needed to have a medical opinion that proved my headaches were either caused by or aggravated by my tinnitus, which was service connected. I didn't go to sick call while I was in the Air Force. I didn't see my civilian doctor for headaches or tinnitus as a civilian. I didn't go for mental health either. So while I was in service, I didn't go to behavioral health, right? So I had almost zero medical evidence to help support my claim. I had to build that claim packet. The records barely documented anything for my claim. And this is true for a lot of veterans. You don't go to the doctor. That military mindset has ingrained itself. You just rub some dirt on it and truck on, right? Meanwhile, you suffer in silence. Or you don't want to deal with the VA. Understandable. I've been there. I missed out on my claim for 3 decades. The fix isn't going back in time. It's starting to document the things that are bothering you now, and then tying those using a legal basis back to your service. That Nexus opinion will explain how the condition developed, how it's connected to service, and how it's worsened over time. So a Nexus letter isn't magic. It's a legal document written by medical professionals expressing an opinion, right? So they don't automatically guarantee you a win. If you've got a generic boilerplate Nexus letter with no condition-specific medical rationale in it, it's probably not going to cut it. If your Nexus a letter doesn't address contradictory evidence already expressed in your file, if it doesn't address that gap, you're not going to win it. Like for instance, if you filed for PTSD and now you've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, if that Nexus letter doesn't address the failed PTSD diagnosis and claim, you're not going to win. And if you've got a very specific condition, likely you've been seen and treated by a specialist. So an MD is not going to specialize in some sort of rare cancer, right? You need a Nexus letter from a specialist that can tie AFFF to the form of cancer you're suffering from. Specialists will carry more weight at the VA than just an MD or a DO. And then, the magic word, right? If the Nexus letter doesn't express at least as likely as not, you're probably not going to win the claim. But it's no magic bullet. There's no guarantee. The Nexus letter has to survive the file, meaning it has to address what's already in your file, including anything that could be used against you. Got to address that stuff head on. This is where quality matters. Getting these boilerplate or AI Nexus letters are not going to win you your claim. It could be cheaper, but you're not going to win the claim. Right? The VA's cutting back on that stuff, cutting down on that stuff. You need quality evidence that addresses everything in your file, plus your condition, uses a logical medical basis for their argument, for their opinion. So what to take away from all this? If you've got a denied claim and you've got a pile of medical evidence, that doesn't mean the door is shut. You're probably just missing the connection, the Nexus letter. If you have medical evidence but no Nexus opinion, you just have an incomplete file. That's why they're denying it. And before you buy a Nexus letter, know exactly why you were denied. If the Nexus letter you buy doesn't address the basis for the denial, you're likely just throwing money away. If you've got records but not the Nexus, or if you've been denied and want to file an appeal to supplement that claim and overcome the denial, hit me up. Link is below. I do this every day, so we can get together on a phone. We can talk about why that was denied and what your plan forward could be. Thanks for watching.